of its conduct during the war on Gaza. And it says Barack Obama should rethink its multi-billion-dollar military aid for the country after accusing it of war crimes and using weapons supplied by the US to carry out serious violations of humanitarian law. Amnesty says it's found evidence of war crimes by Israel and Palestinian fighters, both using weapons supplied from abroad. The human rights group accuses Israel of disproportionate and indiscriminate attacks and of attacks directed at civilians. Amnesty says it has indisputable evidence that Israel used white phosphorus in densely populated areas. It also found evidence of a new type of weapon which seemed to be launched from unmanned airplanes. The weapon explodes into tiny, sharp metal cubes. And Amnesty says 2 13-year-olds and 8 secondary school students were among those killed by this type of shrapnel. The report also criticises Hamas. It highlights indiscriminate rocket attacks on Israeli civilians by Hamas and other Palestinian groups. It's now calling on the UN to impose an immediate arms embargo on both sides while the war crimes allegations are investigated. Well, Colby Goodman is Policy Director for Military Security at Amnesty International. He explained how Amnesty gathered the information in its report.
After the conflict started, we sent in 2 experts, a researcher that's been following Israel, Palestine, and the occupied territories for some time, and a British military expert named Chris Cobbs. And one of the things that we did is we went around and analyzed some of the fragments of different weapons at sites, in homes, UN buildings, schools, where U.S. weapons have been used. And we also talked to some of the victims and the Israeli military, of course. We found so many examples of U.S. weapons used in very precarious situations. In some cases, we're pretty clear that these were violations of international humanitarian law, that we wanted to get this information out to the public, to let them know all of the different types of U.S. weapons that have been used.
Well, Israel rejects the findings of Amnesty's report, as well as criticising the methodology. It says the report presents a biased version of the events and does not adhere to professional criteria and objectivity. Armaments employed by the IDF comply both with international law and with its usage by Western armies. Hamas also rejects Amnesty's criticism of its actions. It says the report is unfair and there's no comparison between the Israeli war machine and Palestinians who, quote, defend themselves with some rifles and other primitive means.